DJ G3 Radio and Podcast, your true source for media and entertainment for the people.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. This is Mike Jones, one half of the Follow Backing Podcast on DJ G3 Radio and Podcast. Today, I come to you with a enlightening and somewhat shocking video revelation. So, I just want to kind of get into it and touch base with you guys today. I didn't really plan on doing anything for a minute yet until we had stuff a little bit more organized. But recently, as a lot of you may know, that there's a lot of independent fact checkers and a lot of media coming on Facebook, and you'll post a story and they'll say independent fact checkers check this out and label it a false story. So then your story on Facebook, even though they don't delete it, there's just a square over the box of your video that says, you know, this is a bullshit story.
When it comes to bullshit, big time, major league bullshit, you have to stand in awe.
Out of all the people that I could have ever thought that would be fact checked and censored, I never thought it would be my guy JP.
You can peel yourself off the couch after being a sedentary waste of space for 30 years, put on a mask, and now you're a pillar of health with all that effort you're putting in. Wearing a mask is a much better health alternative than going to the gym, where you could catch things like COVID, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. But you don't have to take my word for it.
I've replaced all my previous health practices with wearing a mask. Just 60 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and now I'm healthier than I've ever been.
But he makes light of a lot of the stuff that goes into it. So JP just put out a video called New Revelations on the COVID Death Count, right? And I shared it yesterday, and I said, pay attention. Today, I got a notice from Facebook, and the notice went a little something like this. It said, false information has been found in your post. Independent fact checkers at Science Feedback say information in your post is partially false. To stop the spread of false news, we've added a notice to your post. You can check additional reporting from independent fact checkers who investigate reports of false information across Facebook. Here's the false claim, the fact check right here. False claim shared by President Trump that only 6% of CDC reported deaths are from COVID-19 is based on flawed reasoning from health feedback. So it's flawed reasoning. Okay, it's not a false story, it's just flawed reasoning. Now here's the part here's the big kicker. False claims shared by President Trump that only 6% of CDC. President Trump. Now, I ask you in all sincerity, does this guy look like the kind of guy that's following Donald Trump? Go ahead, I'll wait. Absolutely not. This dude is not politically affiliated. I honestly can almost guarantee beyond a shadow of a doubt, this dude does not give two shits about anything that Donald Trump has to say. Much like present company. I don't feel like Joe Biden is the answer for that, but I don't trust none of them. But this man definitely is not a Donald Trump supporter. And here's the thing about all these false stories and things. Let's find out why. Let's find out why they said this was a false story. All right. So if we go into it right now, we'll click on it, and let's click on the feedback. It says Science Feedback says it. So let's figure out what they had to say. Okay. The claim, only 6% of all of the 153,504 deaths recorded actually died from COVID. The rest had other serious illnesses. The verdict? False reasoning, ladies and gentlemen. Flawed reasoning. Not even like a fake story. It's just flawed reasoning. So the source is Facebook users. Joe Hoft, who, I mean, we could probably look this dude up in a second. Facebook and Gateway Pundit. That's the source, right? So the details are flawed reasoning because 94% of COVID-19 death certificates listed comorbidities. The author of the claim incorrectly reasons that only 6% of deaths currently attributed to COVID-19 were actually caused by the disease. It is correct to assume that every patient who had COVID-19, in addition to other medical conditions, died from the medical conditions and are not from COVID-19. It's misleading because the comorbidities are the medical conditions that weaken the patient and may lower their chance of surviving COVID-19, but are not the underlying cause of death. The claim fails to consider that doctors assess the entire chain of clinical events leading to the death of a patient in order to determine the cause. For deaths to be attributed to COVID-19, the clinical events assessed must be compatible with known COVID-19 symptoms. Let's read that back. It fails to consider that doctors assess the entire chain of clinical events leading to the death of a patient in order to determine the cause. I don't think that's what it did. Number one, that's going off of what Donald Trump had said, right? But number two, that has nothing to do with what JP was saying. JP did not quote Donald Trump. He did not quote Donald Trump. He quoted the CDC, right? So let's bear that in mind, right? So let's go on. The key takeaway, I don't care about their takeaway. Fuck their takeaway. The CDC silently updated their numbers this week to show that only 6% of all coronavirus deaths were completely due to the coronavirus alone. Only 6% of the 153,504 deaths recorded actually died from COVID. The rest had other serious illnesses. That's absolutely what happened. Not only that, but out of those, right? Out of those, a huge portion of those were elderly. So we can say whatever we want to say about what Donald Trump had to say, but let's not slander somebody else because of a claim that Trump made. That has nothing to do with what JP was saying. And I encourage all of you to not only subscribe to his channel, but look up the video for yourself. Awaken with JP. There's a picture right here. Awaken with JP. New revelations on the COVID-19 death count. Now, he's poking fun at the whole thing. Which I think he should. We all should be poking fun of it. And we all, honestly, should be right now going and talking to the people that are in charge and asking them what in the actual F is going on that we've got an entire country locked down over this BS, right? There's some of you that are going to be like, whatever. But this is coming from a dude that normally would be considered left up until the fact that he disagreed with what was coming out from the mainstream narrative. As soon as he did that, now all of a sudden he's a Trump supporter. He would be very, very incensed to find out that he was being labeled a Trump supporter. I could almost guarantee it. Well, no, he wouldn't. He would laugh about it. And he's probably making another video coming up pretty soon just based upon that. But kudos to my man JP for pointing out the things that he pointed out in that video. But damn you, Facebook and your independent fact checkers. You are censoring valuable information from the general public. And until the general public realizes that we are being kept from knowing what is really going on, we're never gonna do nothing about it. We're happy, we're content, right? They're protecting us. Understand they're not protecting us. Understand that when a man like JP puts out a video like that, he never gets political. So the fact that he even put that video out means this man did his due diligence to figure it out and produced a funny, informative, and really thought-provoking video. For that video to be labeled as false information based on something that had nothing to do with him, his source is not Donald Trump. So let's bear that in mind. They took the video down, or they labeled it as false information based on the fact that off of a Donald Trump claim that has nothing to do with anything that JP said. JP is not citing Donald Trump. He is citing the CDC, the people that actually put the information out. So for us to have enough critical thinking to put together hey, wait a minute. That's insane to me that they took this. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. But it's nothing as crazy in 2020, is it? But let's just stop, like, labeling our friends. Like, think about this. When you see somebody's post that says is labeled a false story, you better go and click on the outside. Like, don't click on the CY. Just click on the story itself and ask yourself, does that seem like false information? Because everything that's being labeled as false information right now is not false information. You know, and not only that, but you think about it. There, for years, we've had institutions like The Onion and Bumblebee and all these other places that put out satirical stories, right? But those were allowed to be up. Not everybody knew they were false stories, right? There's some people floating around that didn't quite catch the joke.
I don't get it.
That thought it was a real story. Like, hey, hang on, right?
I still don't get it.
But now we can't do that no more. We can't do that no more because it'll be labeled a false story. But yet as long as you're mongering fear and putting out the fear-based narrative, then fine, your story can stay up. That's one to grow on, folks. I am Michael Jones, aka Menacing the Untouchable, one half of the Fall of the Vatican podcast on DJG3 Radio 1 podcast. And I encourage you guys to do some digging for yourselves, man. Let's not let the mainstream media tell us what's right and what's wrong. And with that, I bid you all a good day.